Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, and today we're going to go back in time. We're going to look at a South Bend reel. It was probably made in the 60s. It was actually made in France, and the name on it is called Sup-Matic. And I know that it was a South Bend reel because there was a little tag that fit right here, and it says it's the South Bend 707. Now, I'm not aware of the ones made in France, but that's what it says on the case, so we're going to trust it. And then we're going to take it apart and see what makes it work. So it looks like a Mitchell, doesn't it? Other than the case colors, it kind of has the same bail setup and kind of the same sizing. And this is an interesting one. You actually press down on this spool, turn it, and then it'll pop up usually. There you go to release it. And inside, other than a lot of dirt and grime, it's pretty much a standard setup for a reel of that era. So I'm just going to clean that stuff out while I'm here. I'm not intending to fish this one. I'm going to call this one a tuition reel, like the last one that I just did a video on. I just want to see how it works, what makes it tick, and just kind of satisfy some basic curiosity. So you notice as I'm cleaning, I have a protective glove on my hand here. I'm using a cotton swab to try and get some of the space dirt out of there. And sometimes I like to use a WD-40, which I'll put on there now, or comparable. That's not WD-40. It happens to be the Ace Hardware version of it, but penetrating oil, just to help loosen some of the junk in there. We'll get it off the sides here. So this isn't intended to be anything other than a what's going on type of a reel. I don't imagine it would sell for much. I actually found it in the basement of my father-in-law's home that we're cleaning out, and he can't even remember fishing it, so who knows how long it's been around or been there. And I imagine at one point he had it, but he doesn't remember much of it. So I imagine maybe even got it secondhand. I'm not aware of that. Okay, so we're did a little house cleaning. We got some dirt on the inside of the spool, so we might as well do the same there. And grab that cotton swab and run it around. Now this is your click spring. So when your spool is backpedaling, you'll hear the click on that. Have some old lines sitting on there. I guess we can take that off. And I'm always interested to find out, the different types of thinking that was going into the reel design. This one has a little bit of a different spring mechanism for the click. It also had that different little push down kind of a mechanism, but not unlike the way that the Mitchells would work. If you push down, the spring is going to load it. You have a little pin going through the axle shaft that fits in on this, and then you push it down and turn it, and it locks in. As long as there you go, and we're locked in. And then this would be a tensioner that I'm assuming, yeah, you hold the spool, and you can put more or less tension onto the drag. There we go. All right, and then let's take a look on this side. This side has an oil cap. I'm not sure how this is spun onto the handle. I was looking for a pin. I didn't see it. It has a groove that hasn't been used in a real long time. But put some oil on this, see if we can get it moving later maybe. But there's a little channel where if you push the handle, it should go in. And I imagine over time it just hasn't. But you can push this handle down, turn it over, and collapse it, turn it around. Much like, again, like that Mitchell where you would take the button off the back and let it float. But this one looks like it's probably locked pretty steady. We'll come back and take a little look, see if the penetrating oil did its work. So let's just go underneath and see the mechanics of it then. Now this is a small screw. You don't normally have a screwdriver like this. And time to time I show you some of the things I have. I actually picked this up at Harbor Freight. It's a Drill Master kit, and it kind of has just about any kind of bit you may need. It's got Torx, it's got the flats, it's got the Phillips heads, it's got all kinds of little bits in it. I would recommend you if you do a lot of reel work, it's good to pick up something like this. It's also good to pick up something like this, which is a micro set. I think this is also out of Harbor Freight, but it's just these are smaller versions of the bits that are in this, and you're quite never sure when you're going to use one. And just before setting up the video, I like to put the screwdrivers that I'm going to use, and I noticed that my normal one doesn't fit the groove. So here's it's a snap-on multi-use ratchet, palm held, and I've got the right bit here. All I got to do is flip the ratchet to go reverse, and we should be able to take these screws out now that we have a bit that fits it. I like this particular tool because it's got a rigid on it, and instead of turning the tool, you can turn the shaft once you've loosened the screw. And that's what we're doing here. That's what you're hearing in terms of the noise. So I'm going to just take those screws and make sure that they land in a safe place, which is my parts tray over there. The second of the three. And I like to notice if the screws are different sizes too, just so that you put it back in the right place. In this case, the first two are certainly the same size. And what I liked about it, this was in dry storage, as I mentioned. It was in a basement, sitting in a box. I'm having trouble with that last screw there. Not quite sure why that one doesn't want to come out. There we go. Yeah, just had to grab it a little bit better. It seemed like the channel maybe was a little bit jammed up there. So this is the great reveal. Let's go find out what's underneath here. And wow, we got enough things going on in there. It's a quality made reel. So let's just kind of look at the technology in this one. We have a main drive reel. It's sitting with a plastic crosswind block. This is not unlike the crosswind blocks that are used in some of the Mitchell setups. This is the main drive gear, this little one. When you turn the handle, it's going to turn the gear above. Now, I'm not going to take this reel apart. Again, this is exploratory. It's not going anywhere, not going to be fished. We just wanted to see what was going on in here from a design standpoint. Pull this C-clip out, and you can pull the main gear. I guess we can do that. Should be easy enough. Just don't want to lose any of these pieces or parts, because they're you lose them, we're done. So this is a brass gear. This is a nice nice quality reel. Let's see if we can get that off easily. I'm not thinking we can at the moment, but well, I don't have the hand strength at the moment. Again, I'm not going to do anything crazy. So we have that. I'm going to put that clip back on there. There's a little slot in it. If I was going to rebuild this reel and do anything with it, we would take the time. But again, that was not the purpose today, to go into that detail. So just put that clip right back on there. That'll hold that gear in place. The small gear in the middle here is actually the one that's being turned by the handle. I'm going to turn that. So that's driving two things. We have a crosswind block below that's pushing the axle shaft up and down. We have a transition here that's moving over to the pinion gear that turns the rotor around. So just kind of give you a look at the mechanicals here. So it's pretty neat. I'm sure at the time this wasn't inexpensive. And you can see it's almost like clockwork. It's a nice view into a technology of the time. So that's kind of what I do here, right? I fix reels, but I'm fascinated by reels, and when you like to explore, sometimes you are pleasantly surprised. I think if I looked at it by today's standards, if I looked at it and saw South Bend, maybe I would shrug my shoulder a little bit, because a lot of those just seem to be job shop type reels. But this one, you can tell it was made with quality in the 60s, and it's obviously stood the test of time. It's still here, and it still turns, and it's been sitting in a storage in the basement for quite some time. So as I said, I'm not going to do anything with this. Just wanted to open it up and see how it works, and to show you the various technologies that were around in the day. Some of these have been copied. Some of these have gone in the way of clock radios, in that they were functional at a time, but probably aren't useful any longer. And some of these are still being fished today. If you look at the comparables from the time, would be, I'm looking at this, a Mitchell 302 would be a comparable, a Penn Spinfisher 700 would be a comparable. And I'm sure this sat alongside in the sporting goods stores of the time, on the shelf right next to them. I imagine this one was a couple of dollars less than the others, but that doesn't mean that the technology inside of it was compromised. It sure doesn't look that way. It looks like this was quite a feat of engineering here. And I imagine if I wanted to spool this thing up with some line, that we could take it out and do some fishing with it. But that's not going to happen. It'll become a shelf sitter here just because it was my in-laws' reel, and we'll just kind of leave it around, and when somebody says, "What's that?" we'll have a story to tell. But now I know what's going on inside it as well. So always fun to kind of find these things out. And I would encourage you, if you're out and about and you're at a swap meet or someplace where you see something like this, don't just walk by it because it's old. Take a look at it. Go learn something from it. It's a cheap price to pay to gain an understanding of how reels are made, and in this case, this one's made very well. So that's it. That's a South Bend 707. It's called the it looks like Sun-matic. Could be Surf-matic, but I'm going to go with Sun-matic at the moment. And nice little reel. I'm sure in the day it was a prized possession to have as you were out there trying to catch the big one. So with that, I'm going to leave you. I appreciate you watching. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Thanks for viewing.